Now, on this YouTube channel, I've experienced two different things. I've experienced so much positivity from some people that are really open, that wish to know exactly what techniques I used in order to gain some sort of success in the natural bodybuilding world and to win some competitions and so forth, and to get my arms up to almost 19 inches and to get my bench press, over 400 pounds. And there are a number of people that have been so positive and so great to deal with, and even if they train differently than I do, or even if they are in maybe they're powerlifters, or maybe they're CrossFitters, maybe they're doing something different, they're still beautiful people to deal with because they're so open to always a new way or a new innovation in training or eating, But the other side of the spectrum I've gotten is so much negativity based on, you could call them the old guard, the people guarding that there is only one way to do something, and if you do it any other way, then you're basically the Antichrist, or you're some sort of blasphemous type of person. You're going against the principles that are absolute, or the commandments of training and the commandments of diet. And to these people that are so unopen and so unwilling to see what has led to success in other people, I suggest that they just go watch a different YouTube channel. I mean, you don't have to actually see what I did, because you obviously don't give a shit. You only care about what you're doing. You don't care about what might have worked for someone else. So you're not a person that is open for evolution, So, myself, I'm always trying new techniques, trying new things and experimenting, but the entire time I am feeling what's happening in my body when I'm doing this. I'm not saying that any one recipe is right. I'm actually applying it and finding out for myself. And so I suggest you do that too. So I'm not asking you to train the way I train. I'm asking you to train the way you train. Train in a way that is right for you and really apply the principles and see what really works. Okay? It's just that I've had the advantage of applying some principles over a long period of time and conducting my own experiment. And like I said, everybody's a little bit different, but some of the principles I've found to be true may also be true for you. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. So, I do make suggestions sometimes for people in their training out of concern, not out of any sort of religious ideal of you must train my way. But there was a gentleman that was training, and he's really strong. I mean, he was doing 400 pounds for a couple reps, and he was doing 365 for sets of 4 or 5, regularly. And I could see that most of his workouts, as he was tracking his workouts and videotaping, were always in this range. So I suggested to him, I said, hey, if you're training that heavy and you're starting to lift your bum off the bench and you're starting to really strain at these high rep or high poundages with low reps, you may get a shoulder injury if you push it too hard too often, going into the failure. And he said, thanks for the advice, whatever, really nice guy, once again, another great open person. But sure enough, a month later, he kept on lifting heavy and he blew his shoulder out. So this is something I've seen a million times in the gym over the last 26 years. I've seen it with my own eyes, with people that I've watched train, people that were friends of mine, that were training differently than me. And we were all conducting our own experiment, and I've seen this happen over and over again. So for those of you that are always going for PRs or 1 rep maxes, or always working in the 3 rep range but going right to failure, I'd say this is not the best way to avoid injuries. I mean, it might be a good way to gain some strength for a period of time, but at some point when you push the body too hard, it will snap. So that's kind of the conundrum we have with this whole training thing, is that you're trying to push the body as hard as you can, but you don't want to push it too hard, because if you push it too hard, then something gives. So there's a happy medium in there. So just so you know that there are many ways to meet that happy medium and many ways to continue the training. And some of the ways I train on this channel are those ways. So there is one guy, ironically enough, well, I won't even mention his name because I don't even want to get into the whole conflict, because conflict is not even a fun thing anyway, But bottom line, he said, I have the worst form ever and all this kind of stuff in my training. Well, the worst form, what is the right form? I'd really like to ask you that. What is the correct form, really? People have all this idea about what the correct form is. If you don't break parallel on the squat, you're not squatting. If you don't touch your chest on bench press, you're not bench pressing. If you don't lock out on exercises, you're not finishing the exercise. But can I ask you, what is the purpose of the exercise? The purpose of the exercise is to build strength safely and to challenge the muscle to possibly put on muscle mass. you know, and depending on what way you train will depend on which way is more important to you, and you may cater your training accordingly. But what we have on the internet right now is we have a bunch of people saying you must train this way no matter what your body's telling you. So even if your shoulder feels like it's going to fall off when you're locking out, or your elbows are getting inflamed, ignore that. Just continue to lock out anyway, because that's the fucking right way to do it. Do you see how retarded this type of thinking is, right? So I've seen a million guys out there with elbow tendonitis. They've got wraps around their elbow. They got wraps around their knees because they are using extreme ranges of motion in their training. But yet they'll say, you're a pussy because you're not using the range of motion I'm using. So I'm not here to say one way is right or not, but I'm also here to say, cater the movements to what is right for you, okay? And some of you out there, this is really going to resonate with, because some of you have been crucified by changing your movements according to what feels right to you at the time, okay? You've been crucified for it, saying there's something wrong with you. You should do it this way, no matter what your knee's telling you, no matter what your shoulder's telling you, no matter what your wrist is telling you, no matter what your pecs are telling you, or your tendons or ligaments. And I'm here to stage a little bit of a revolution here, okay? I'm here to tell you that you train in the way that is right for you, and yes, you try to do it the best possible way you can. But don't listen to the people that are insulting you and manipulating you into training a certain way because they have such an insecurity complex about, oh, if I can't squat with my ass to the floor, somehow I'm a little girly man or something, right? So this is not a way of creating a connection to the body. And this YouTube channel, first and foremost, is a YouTube channel that is challenging you to connect to your body in a deeper way, not to go by some sort of bodybuilding or weight training blueprint. And no matter what your body's telling you, ignore it and just keep following that blueprint or that rule book on how to train, okay? What I want you to do is challenge the body in a safer way. And if that includes larger ranges of motion, so be it. But that must be something that feels right to you if you do that. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not here to say one way is right or one way is wrong. I'm just here to say that the way I train is what has worked for me, because there are certain limitations that I've experienced with the body, and I've realized that there are certain ways of staying within safer ranges of motion and getting the optimal result with the least amount of risk for injury. So for today, I train squats. And you'll notice that I keep the tension up and down on squats. I keep constant tension, and you'll notice that I don't come all the way up. I don't come all the way up. Why is that? You know, most people say, oh, he's just cheating. He's just trying to get more reps to prove that he's a bigger man. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm going down to where I feel that my legs are taking the most stress. And once I feel that the stress starts to transfer to my lower back and hips, then I start to ascend again. And when I ascend, I come up. But I notice that after I come up past a certain point, what happens is my back starts to change its groove. It's almost like there's a certain amount of laxity in the back. And it feels like it helps me keep my tension on the back in the perfect way. My back stays perfectly arched when I don't lock out on the top, right? It's easier to keep my perfect form of my back. So I'm making sure that I'm avoiding injury in the lower back. For me, this is what is feeling the right way for me to do it at this time. And it has been like that ever since I injured my back when I was 18 years old. So this is why I train this way. First priority in training, avoid injury. Second priority is to make gains, okay? So if you can find a way to optimally train where you keep the tension on the muscle, but you keep the safety engaged at the same time, then you've got a 1-2 punch for perfect success, okay? So yeah, so if you notice when I'm squatting, my motion is constant tension. I'm not worried about whether somebody's measuring my full rep or my not rep. I'm saying, is the tension staying on the muscle, and is there a contraction and a stretch going on in the muscle? That's my primary concern. And if I can meet that, then I know that there's some sort of results going to come from it. I also performed some shoulder presses today. And you'll notice that even when I come all the way to the top, my arms still, even when I come all the way up, my arms still look slightly bent. That's just the way my arms are built, right? That's just the way I move. It's not because I'm doing something wrong or I'm cheating or whatever. But when I keep the movement like this, right here is where the tension's still in the shoulder. If I come from here to here, now the tension starts to leave the actual delt itself and it starts to transfer to the joint, where it's like now there's some sort of stability going on, but it's not actually in the delt itself. So because of this, I keep the motion constant on the delt, constant on the delt. And this is where I've achieved the results. So perfect form is all relative. That's really what I want you to take from this video. It's not so absolute like a lot of people would make you think, you know, according to the Stanford University test or this, that, Harvard. You know, the truth is that it does change per person. If you watch different people run, each person will have a different cadence, a different stride, a different amount of weight and a different amount of speed. They'll have different bone lengths, different joint angles. This is normal for human beings. When we watch them run, we know that one person walks different than another. So why should we all train the same? Why should every repetition look exactly the same? It can't. It can't look the same. So yeah, just bear that in mind when you do your training. You know, if you don't look like somebody, that's okay. Just do what feels right, and hopefully this channel can help you out in finding what is right for you. Okay? Take care for now.